Hello, welcome to a live edition of Shardcast. I'm your host, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to get set ready to go to show you some live action of the HexTCGPro Challenge Series between Threshold and Alaeryn. This is going to be a round 6 matchup, featuring both opponents are 3-2 at this point in time. Their match should be getting underway momentarily, and I'll get you out to that match as soon as they go live. Threshold got here by way of 3 wins to start off the tournament. He went 3-0, and then lost his last 2 to Seraphim and Tofu. So he's trying to get off the 2-game snide there to go back to 3-3. Alaeryn is almost going back and forth. He lost his first game, won his second game, lost third, won his fourth, and he's going on back-to-back wins here as he dropped Clockwork, Kama, and Elodale in rounds 4 and 5 to go to 3-2. So their match should be starting here momentarily. We're talking at about 8:30. It's 8:33 now, so as soon as they go live, we'll go ahead and get you out there. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and get you some information on both these players. Alaeryn is a relatively new TCG player. He played Magic the Gathering for about 6 to 8 months. I know him personally because I do actually work with him in real life. So he is one of the people who is near and dear to Shardcast, as he is one of our main editors, fuel, and critics. But it's always usually good constructive criticism. And Threshold is actually Outlandish Matt from the Threshold podcast. If you haven't had a chance to check out the Threshold podcast, it's at www.thresholdpodcast.com. They have a weekly podcast they do about Hex. He can be found at Outlandish Matt on Twitter. And on that podcast, they usually put it out. They record it on Thursdays and it usually comes out either Monday or Tuesdays. So be sure to check those out if you have a moment. I'll have all this information down at the bottom of the screen here once I get this posted. So in the meantime, just bear with me as we get that taken care of. Alaeryn can be found on Twitter at AlaerynHex. And I'll have his YouTube information down there as well. If he's actually started just recording his videos, so they will be available shortly. On the interim, we're actually going to be killing some time here as they get all set up. That's one thing about being live here, is normally I would get you right out to the action as I normally do, but this is our first real live Shardcast. About our 4th or 5th episode, if you will. I tried doing a live Shardcast with Function, and that sort of fell apart. So we're hoping this one will actually take off and do well. So in the meantime, bear with me as we get that started. The matchup you're actually watching is going to be from Threshold's point of view, and it's going to be, like I said, the HexTCGPro Challenge Series Round 6 matchup. Now how that works is HexTCGPro put on a community-run tournament. That is a Swiss tournament. If you're new to any sort of trading card game tournament formats, Swiss format means you play all the rounds, it's not single elimination, and you always get paired up with someone with a like or similar record in each round, which is why you see both opponents at 3-2. That being said, we had 179 participants, if I remember correctly. That being said, that we are on round 6. This should conclude towards the end of this week, if not towards the weekend. I believe you have 6, I'll double check that right now, 6 people at 6-0 right now. Let me get that pulled up real quick as we await the players going live. Undefeated, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people at 5-0 right now. So that's big news there. The thing with the Swiss tournament is because you do play all the rounds, you aren't actually out of the tournament after the first round. Like most single elimination tournaments, a lot of people don't like to get into it because as soon as they're done, they're done. It's kind of off-putting. Whereas in a Swiss format, you get to play all the rounds. So you get to meet different people, play against different decks, and actually get the whole format. And because we aren't in a true tournament client inside of Hex right now. The tournament's been spread across about 3 weeks thus far. I think we got started in the second week of January, maybe towards the end of the second week, so we're on the third week now. But it's been quite a bit of fun. If you are new to Hex Shards of Fate in general, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's the new TCG from Cryptozoic Entertainment. They're the people that brought you the WoW TCG. So if you're familiar with that, the same people. HexTCG Shards of Fate, however, is an all-digital trading card game, which allows it to do a couple things that a lot of paper formats couldn't do. You'll see cards transform before your eyes. You'll see permanent counters on cards. You'll see cards going in the opponent's deck in the middle of the game. So a lot of neat features. We are in the alpha stage, so anything you see here is in the testing format and may or may not be as it will be when it's released to the public. That being said, if you would like to participate in the alpha and don't currently do so, you can go to HexTCG.com, and at the top there will be a button that says Store, and actually underneath it will be a Donate, and you can go there and become what we call a Slacker Backer. For $50, you'll get $84 worth of merchandise when the game does release, as well as access to the alpha and the beta. The alpha does come available to you with all the features they have currently been able to implement, as well as a full playset, 4 copies of each one of the cards that are available. So it is a pretty neat thing. We have a good, robust, and friendly community here in Hex. So if that's something that interests you, please hop on over to there and check that out. If you'd like to know more about the game, they do have a 16-minute how to play video on their Kickstarter page. So you can either go to Kickstarter.com and search Hex Shards of Fate and find it there, or you can go to Hex's website, and there is a Kickstarter link on the right-hand side. You can go straight to it. So that will give you a little bit of how to play. This is the 25th Shardcast. So if this may be the format you would like to see, someone kind of talk you through what's going on, I try to give you a play-by-play analysis of what's going on in front of you. Feel free to go to my YouTube page, which is actually on the right-hand side of your screen right now. It says youtube.com. It's actually youtube.com/user/HexShardcast. And that will allow you to see any of the previous Shardcasts. We have anything from a few exhibition matches to best-of-3 tournament matches like I'm about to show you shortly. I just got word from Outlandish Matt that he had to do a hard reset, so he's been back up in a couple minutes. That was about 4 or 5 minutes ago, so hopefully we'll be able to bring that out to you shortly. In the meantime, I will ask that again you go visit the Hex website, visit the Shardcast website. Follow me on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter or subscribe to my YouTube page, you will get notification every time a new Shardcast comes out. I try to put out a couple a week, featuring anything from exhibition matches to tournament matches and all different points of view. Meaning, if you decide to back the alpha and decide to start streaming, I can feature one of your videos on Shardcast. All I ask is that you keep the play screen clear to where it's easier to crop and easier to view from the viewer's point of view. And you'll see here in just a moment how that will work out. And that you have it either cropped to where I can easily get to it, such as if you have a string of hour and 45 minutes, put a highlight out there on Twitch, that way it's easier to crop down for me and I can go ahead and put it out there for you. Send me a message on Twitter, send me a note on my YouTube page, and I'll be more than happy to feature that for you. In the meantime, I'm actually going to try to tweet and answer questions as we go here and while we work. So follow me on @Fruitalvania, and anytime I tweet out there, you'll get a message. Anytime I post a video to my Shardcast page, you'll actually get notification of it. We are waiting just momentarily again for the matchup between Alaeryn and Threshold in their round 6 matchup of the HexTCGPro Challenge Series match. And it looks like we'll be going live very shortly. As we see, I'm actually looking for Outlandish Matt right now. It looks like his feed's coming up in just a second, so we'll get you out there in just a moment to the live Shardcast. Again, this is a best-of-3 matchup. No sideboarding allowed, meaning that after the first game, they will not be able to go back and change their decks. Normally in a tournament format, especially in best of 3, between games you can actually sideboard out a number of cards. Hex will have that ability later on once they get the tournament function up and running, which is sort of up and running now. They've got a tournament format and even a sealed tournament format up and running now. The reserves is what they call their sideboard. Allows you to put 15 cards alongside your deck, and in between games during your match, you can actually put some of those cards back in and swap them out to better suit your opponent and their playstyle. However, all the matches throughout have to start with the same starting deck. What makes the Challenge Series different is because this is community run, and there was a hard way to get 180 players to adhere to deck lists and to how the make sure they're not being a little unsavory with their deck play. They were allowed to change decks in between matches, but not in between games. So there's no sideboarding, no reserves going on. They will use the same deck throughout all 3 games if it goes all 3 games for the best of 3. So it looks like Outlandish Matt, or actually Threshold, as you'll see him in game, is getting set ready to go here. As he's doing that, once he gets ready to go, we will get you out of the game, and it looks like we are almost there. As soon as we see the coin flip, I will switch you over, and we'll be ready to go. If you are here viewing the Shardcast, feel free to send me questions. I will try to answer them on the fly. If you have seen any of my Shardcasts, it is hard to do that, so let's get you over the coin flip. Here we go, live Shardcast. We're looking from Threshold's point of view. And it looks like we got a little bit of delay there. Now, because this is live, we will have a little bit of a delay. Threshold's going to keep his hand of 2 Sapphire Shards, a Time Ripple, Eldritch Dreamer, 2 Buccaneers, and a Thunderbird. Alaeryn will look at his set of cards, and Threshold will get us started. He will lead us off with a Sapphire Shard. And we'll have to pass turn because he has no card in his hand that costs 1. Threshold will be playing Wyatt the Sapper, as well as Alaeryn. Both are playing a mono blue type champion. Now, if you're new to HexTCG, the champions are basically you in the game. And as you play your shards, which are your resource, you gain charge power, which is actually located down here by the life total. It's a red 1 there. As you get to 5 champion powers for Wyatt the Sapper, he can actually allow you to draw a card. Alaeryn plays a Sapphire Shard for turn, and he will pass turn back over to Threshold. This may be a little jumpy, so bear with me on this because I am trying to stream off of another stream live, so there may be a little bit of delay, and we'll get you as best as we can. Because we are dealing from Threshold's point of view and borrowing his stream as he draws a Time Ripple for turn, he plays a Sapphire Shard followed by a Thunderbird. You will see he is actually broadcasting his Threshold podcast information there. Like I said before, visit www.thresholdpodcast.com to visit Matt and the rest of his Threshold team as they give you weekly podcasts on Hex. Alaeryn draws card for turn, drops a Sapphire Shard, and let's see if he has anything in response to play on his second turn. He does not. So the Threshold will have a 1/1 Thunderbird out there that has Flight and Rage 1, meaning he's going to gain +1/+0 each time he attacks. Threshold's looking to probably play a little bit more of a control type deck here. Sapphire can go either way. It can either go to a strict flight, or it can go control, or a little bit of both. It looks like he drew a Menacing Grolk, and will move to his attack phase and swing his Thunderbird. As you can see, it bumped up to a 2/1 because of the Rage ability. Alaeryn with no blockers will take the 2 and go down to 18. So he passes turn over to Alaeryn since he didn't have another shard to play. Stuck on 2 shards. Alaeryn will draw a card for turn, go to 8 cards. And again, pardon the stream feed here. Because we have no observer point of view in the Hex client yet, I do have to stream off another stream. I can't just sit in there and observe the game. So bear with me as we go through some of these trials and tribulations here. It looks like Alaeryn drops a Sapphire Shard and plays a Time Ripple against Threshold's Thunderbird. Time Ripple says for 2 resources. It's a quick action. It says you can put target card back into its owner's hand, and that card gets a permanent cost of +1. So the Thunderbird, as you can see, goes back to Threshold's hand. It now has a red cost of 3 instead of the original cost of 2. That'll be it for Alaeryn's turn, as he has 1 resource back, passes over to Threshold. Threshold draws a counter magic, and it is a little jumpy because of the feed here, so you actually get to see him draw it. But he didn't draw another shard, so he's kind of stuck on 2 shards here, and he can't replay the Thunderbird because of that Time Ripple. So he's kind of stuck here. Now with 8 cards in hand, he's going to have to discard something. Traditional TCGs, along with Hex, say if you have more than 7 cards at the end of your turn, you must discard to get back down to 7. We'll probably see him get rid of the missing Grolk here because he's a long way from 5. Yes, he does. Pass his turn back over to Alaeryn, who has 6 cards in hand. Will draw to 7. He does not have anything to play. So he doesn't drop a shard, and he holds on to all 3 of his resources, all 7 of his cards, which usually spells counter magic. You'd like to have all 3 resources back to be able to do that. And Threshold is stuck. He can't draw a shard. So Threshold, I'm sure, is fairly frustrated here. I'm sure he'll have to go back to his end phase, and we'll see what he says to discard this time. I'd hate to see him get rid of the Dreamer, because the Dreamer is such a strong card in the Sapphire format. It looks like he might be getting rid of one of the Buccaneers, as he expresses his frustration to Alaeryn there in the chat box. He goes to his discard phase here, and he does discard a Buccaneer and passes turn back over to Alaeryn. So Threshold's stuck at 2 shards there and 7 cards in hand. Alaeryn has 3 resources, draws to 8 cards now. You have to imagine no matter what Alaeryn plays, though, Threshold's going to play one of those 2 Time Ripples in his hand. If anything else, just to slow Alaeryn down. So we'll see. Yep, it looks like Alaeryn, is he choosing to just discard to play something? That's kind of odd, unless he's stuck with a lot of high-cost cards in his hand. So yeah, he's going to move to discard as well. Not your exciting matchup. He discards a Turreted Wall, which is a 0/5 defensive card, which means it cannot attack, it can only block. And at the start of your turn, deal 1... Sorry, at the start of your opponent's turn... No, start of your turn. Deal 1 damage to each opposing champion. Threshold draws an Arcane Shield, which is a 2-drop quick action, but again, it's not another shard, and it's not a troop you can put on the board. So, frustratingly, he's going to have to put something back into the graveyard again. See what he decides to put in this time around. He puts the Arcane Shield in. Without any troops in play, Arcane Shield gives target troop Spell Shield. And without any troops on board, yep, there he goes, it shows you that. It doesn't do him any good to hang on to it. Alaeryn draws card for turn. He drops a Sapphire Shard, so he may be able to speed up here. He now has 4 resources. You listen to the... Hold on a second. Yep, Alaeryn's going to play Incantation of Ascension, which is a constant, meaning it permanently stays on the board unless it's removed. We'll get to that in a second as Threshold Time Ripples it immediately. It says that every time you draw a card, put an incantation counter onto the constant. When it gets to 5 counters, it changes it, and all copies of Incantation of Ascension turns into a Lightning Armada. But Threshold Time Ripples it, which means it goes back to Alaeryn's hand and will cost 5 to play it again. Threshold draws another copy of a Thunderbird. This one stays at 2 cost, so he's going to put that into play. I'm guessing Alaeryn has a time ripple of his own. He's hanging on to 7 cards over there. Surely he's got something. So we're going to see a big chess match here. Threshold's going to be on the losing end of this, though, if he can't draw any shards. Alaeryn draws a card for turn. He drops a different incantation. This one is only a 4-drop, meaning he has another one still in his hand. Again, if he draws 5 cards, he gets 5 counters on there. It and all other copies, including, there you go, including the one in his hand, will turn into a Lightning Armada, which is a 2/2 flight troop that gets +2/+2 for each card in hand. And there's another shard for Threshold. He can start moving now. So he now has 3 shards, 3 resources to be able to play anything. He plays his previous Thunderbird that now costs 3. So he'll have 2 Thunderbirds out in play. Hex is different than other TCGs in the fact that that counter that Thunderbird got previously when it attacked before it was time rippled, made it a 2/1. It actually stays on him even though it was bounced back to his hand. So it will be a 2/1 as it comes into play. When he moves to his attack phase and attacks, the other Thunderbird will move to 2/1. Alaeryn has no resources back to do anything about it and no blockers, so he'll go down to 16 health here. Threshold's still at 20. Alaeryn will go down to 16. Threshold has 2 2/1 Thunderbirds in play. Alright, so Alaeryn will take his turn, draw a card. So there goes, you see the incantation there shake a little bit as it gets a counter put on it. Alaeryn goes to 8 cards. And we'll see if he has anything out there. He has a Time Ripple. He's going to Time Ripple the 3-cost Thunderbird, meaning it will cost 4, knowing that Threshold's had many struggles thus far trying to get a Sapphire Shard. So he's going to put that back in his hand. It will cost 4 to play it again. It looks like that will be all that Alaeryn's going to play this turn. So very slow movement for both decks. You expect that out of a control deck. A mirror match between control decks is even slower. I've casted previous Shardcast where there have been 3-game matches done in 30 minutes. So this will definitely be a slow one as Threshold draws a Buccaneer for turn. Swings the Thunderbird. It goes up to a 3/1 this time because of that rage ability. See if Alaeryn does anything about that. He has no blockers. He would have to play some sort of action card out of his hand to do anything. Otherwise, he takes the 3 damage. Again, apologize for the lag here we got on the Twitch feed. It looks like he's not going to be able to do anything, so Alaeryn will go down to 13 health now. Threshold seems to be put on a little bit of a pressure, even though he had a little bit of a problem drawing shards early on. Alaeryn puts a second counter as incantation as he draws a card for turn, going to 8 cards in hand. With 3 resources now, though, Threshold can counter anything Alaeryn decides to play. And there you go. Alaeryn tries to play a Buccaneer to bounce that Thunderbird back off the table. In response, Threshold plays a counter magic, meaning it will not only counter Buccaneer, but it will also make it and all other copies Alaeryn has in all zones, meaning his graveyard, his hand, his library, on the battlefield, all of it will get permanent cost of +2, so they'll all be 5 cost from now on. That will allow Threshold to put on some serious speed here. He's holding on to that other time rippled hand. You know that's going to bounce the incantation back up off the board as soon as it starts to get enough counters on it. So we'll see what he draws for turn. Buccaneer really doesn't help him here because it doesn't take any cards off of the table for Alaeryn, so I don't see him playing that. If he draws a shard, you may see him drop Eldritch Dreamer. It's a risky play, though, because playing against another control deck, you have to worry it's going to get bounced right back off the table. I keep saying table, but this is an all-digital game, so it's really bounced off the monitor. So we'll call it that. Threshold out to a 20 health to 13 health lead. As we start what I believe to be turn 7. A little bit of a delay here, as we are in the alpha stage of Hex. Because Counter Magic changes the cost of all cards in all those zones, it does take a few minutes for it to shuffle through all of those cards in order to get them all updated. So there's a little bit of delay. We see Threshold draws a Sapphire Shard for turn. That's huge, because now he gets to play most of the cards in his hand. He's up to 4 resources now. He chooses to bypass his first main phase and swing his now 4/1 Thunderbird. With only having 1 resource, I don't believe Alaeryn will be able to play anything to do anything about this. He can't, so Alaeryn will go down to 9 health. So we'll see if Threshold decides to play anything. He does not play anything in his second main phase. He's going to hold on to that Time Ripple just in case he needs it. Ideally, that would be if Alaeryn decides to play an Oracle Song. Oracle Song is a 3-cost card that allows you to draw 2 additional cards. That would put the Incantation up to 5 counters, so that would probably be the ideal play there. Incantation counter goes up to 3 counters as Alaeryn draws his 8th card. Or draws a card for turn to go to 8 cards, I should say. Plays a Sapphire Shard for turn. You see his champion power blinking over there in the top left. That means he has 5 charge powers. He can draw a card. Using all 5 of those charge powers, he's up to 8 cards in hand now. I would imagine you're going to see Threshold Time Ripple this incantation with any card that's played. There's Oracle Song. In response, he's going to want to Time Ripple. Interesting. I thought he would have Time Rippled the incantation in response. Because now he's dealing with a 20/20 swinging at him. Yes, he can Time Ripple it now. I guess his thinking is the fact that if he Time Ripples this, he forces Alaeryn to discard 3 cards. Because he can't turn around and play it again. It's going to be a 5-cost troop. He only has 2 resources left over. The issue, well, no, that's not an issue, because now when it comes back into play, he's got an extra turn because it will have troop trauma. This is a very savvy play by Threshold. Because the constant was in play for more than 1 turn, when it transformed into a troop, it doesn't have to wait an additional turn before it can attack, as you can see here. By Time Rippling it, Alaeryn plays Arcane Shield in response, making the Lightning Armada impervious to anything that targets it. That's a huge play, because the Oracle Song will not, the Time Ripple will now fizzle, and 18 damage will be coming through the Threshold. It will go down to 2. Now, he still has a little bit of life left, because he's got a couple of Buccaneers in hand, and a Menacing Grok. So, Buccaneers will work because Spell Shield only has target cards. The ability should be able to still target it. I don't know if I'd take that chance because I'm not positive. I think I'd hope to draw a Sapphire Shard here and play Menacing Grok. So we move to Threshold's next turn. He draws a Shard. We've got to see the Menacing Grok come out. He'll draw a card using his champion power, which is another Shard. Here comes Menacing Grok. It's a 2/2 flyer. More importantly, it exhausts all opposing troops, and they don't ready on their next ready step. So that being said, he's going to be able to swing 5 with the Thunderbird here. The Lightning Armada on the board will not ready next turn, meaning it won't be able to block. However, we know Alaeryn has another flight troop in his hand. We know he has another Armada. So we'll see. Once we get to the attack phase here, we'll have to let Alaeryn pass priority over. There we go. Threshold's going to swing for 5 here, taking Alaeryn down to 4. It all depends on what Alaeryn's able to play on its next turn. If he's able to bounce the Thunderbird, it will buy him time. He may actually be able to pull this out. If he's not able to bounce the Thunderbird, we may see a game here. Threshold may be able to win with just 2 health. So as he shows you missing Grok there, that Lightning Armada 1616 will not be ready on his next step. We saw it looks like he discarded a Oracle Song, a Arcane Shield. I played the Arcane Shield, so it looks like a Buccaneer, Oracle Song, and a Cerulean Mentalist is what Alaeryn ended up discarding. He only discard 2, so it had just been the Oracle Song and the Cerulean Mentalist. So Alaeryn will draw a card for turn, going up to 7 cards. Actually, he'll go up to 8 cards. We'll see what kind of response he has for that Thunderbird on board. If he doesn't, that's going to be game. Because last time I checked, there are no speed cards in Sapphire, meaning no cards will be able to attack on their first turn. So as we wait for the shuffling to go through here, here we go. It looks like it's going through again. Like I said, because of those that counter magic down there, it takes a little while for it to shuffle through there. Alaeryn draws a card for turn. Up to 8 cards. Let's see if he has a response for Thunderbird. If not, that's going to be game. As we wait, Alaeryn plays the Sapphire Shard, goes to 6 resources. So he should be able to play another flyer out there. The problem for that is, yep, there's Lightning Armada. The problem with that is, unless he has another Arcane Shield in hand, Threshold should be able to bounce it playing his Buccaneer. So we'll see. Alaeryn uses 4 resources to play the Lightning Armada, leave him 2 behind, 6 cards in hand. It appears that he's going to pass turn. Over to Threshold. He draws another Buccaneer. So he's going to Buccaneer, take the readied Lightning Armada off the board, which will remove any blockers. That should be game. Assuming Alaeryn doesn't have any response for this. He has another Arcane Shield, which we saw him play one already. If he doesn't have another Arcane Shield, this will be game. What would be interesting is if in response, Alaeryn time rippled Threshold's Thunderbird. That would buy him 1 more turn and definitely turn the tables. Now, we know that Threshold's got 2 more Buccaneers in hand. So we'll see. Okay, here it comes. The Buccaneers going to take the Lightning Armada off the board. Does Alaeryn have a time ripple back? Let me look up. Yep, Alaeryn is wishing a GG. That's going to do it. So Threshold or Outlandish Matt will take game 1 with his 2 health remaining. Very, very close game, as Threshold also acknowledges there, as the 18 health shot, 1 shot from the Lightning Armada, brought Threshold down to 2 health there, but he was able to use a couple of cards there, get back on pace with his shards to take game 1. So as they ready up for game 2, as like I said, there won't be much of a delay here because there is no reserves in this matchup, in this tournament. So we'll wait for the coin flip here. It looks like they're going to coin flip now. Give it just a second. Again, we're waiting on delay. Here's the coin flip. We won't know who wins by the coin flip because they both have the same champion. It looks like Alaeryn won the coin flip. Threshold's looking at a 1-shard hand after the experience he had last time. We're pretty much sure he's going to pitch that. He does. Keeps a 6-card hand. He's got 4 Sapphire Shards, Ancestor's Chosen, and a Elder's Dreamer. Alaeryn kept a 7-card hand, and he will be playing first as we get underway here for Game 2. Drops a Sapphire Shard for turn. And that will do it. He'll pass turn over to Threshold. Alright, Threshold will get a draw card because he went second. He draws a Buccaneer, drops a Sapphire Shard, and Ancestor's Chosen. Ancestor's Chosen is a 1/1 troop for 1 that says at the start of your turn, put 2 Ancestral Specters into your deck. Ancestral Spectre is a 2/2 flight troop for 1 that when it comes into play it allows you to draw cards. That's why it's a rare card. You can tell by you can barely see at the bottom of the card. It's actually a blue little symbol. If he decides to zoom into it again here in a second, we'll show it to you. But down at the bottom of the card, right, almost smack down in the center, there's a symbol with a 1 next to it, meaning it's the first set. The color determines the rarity of the card. If you're familiar with any TCGs whatsoever, the rarity, of course, depends on how many copies they're going to issue as well as the strength of the card. Alaeryn draws a card and drops a 2nd Sapphire Shard, but doesn't play anything and passes turn back over to Threshold. The rarity of the card, if it's a white symbol, it's going to be a common card, meaning it's very common, it's very basic. Doesn't necessarily mean they're bad cards, it's just they're easy to get hold of and doesn't pack a whole lot of punch. Green is uncommon, blue is rare, and red is legendary. The Threshold draws a Sapphire Shard for turn, drops 1 on the table, and swings the 1/1 Chosen and kind of jokes with Alaeryn there, saying he's on a 19-turn clock now. Always good to be jovial and have good sportsmanship with your opponent there, which I've found is very common here in Hex. If you're looking into getting into Hex and you're worried about maybe some of the other TCGs, especially online TCGs, about the community, Hex has had a very, very good community thus far. Lots of helpful, jovial, good people out there that are all looking to improve the game, make it be the greatest game it can be, and are really out there just to have fun. So check it out if you are interested. Again, go to HexTCG.com, click on Store, then Donate, and become a Slacker backer today. Alaeryn drops a Sapphire Shard in his turn and drops a Buccaneer, which we saw Threshold play last game, and he's going to put the Ancestor's Chosen back in Threshold's hand. The big thing about that is because it won't be on the playing surface at the start of his turn, those Specters won't go into his deck. So that's one of the plus sides for Alaeryn going first there. He is ahead on the resource curve there. He gets to 3 resources faster than Threshold. Yeah, Threshold's thinking about playing the Buccaneer and bouncing his Buccaneer back out, but the problem with that is that gives him the Buccaneer to turn and play again. I can see the desire wanting to do that, but almost would come back to bite him if he tried to do that. So he plays Ancestor's Chosen again. This time it's a 2-cost troop. So it's going to cost him 2 of his 3 resources. But that will allow the Buccaneer to come in and start doing some damage to Threshold because he really doesn't want to block with the Chosen. Because it would not be a trade. It would not take the Buccaneer off the board. And he would lose all those Specters that would go into his deck. So Alaeryn will draw his card for turn, beginning of turn 4 here. And he plays an Oracle Song. Again, it's a 3-cost card that allows you to draw 2 cards. So he's out of resources, but he's back up to 7 cards in hand. Trying to see if he can draw a Shard out of that, because he didn't get to play a Shard. There he goes. So it worked out well. He has 1 resource now, 4 total. He'll no doubtedly swing with the Buccaneer when he gets to his attack phase here. Again, we have no Observe mode in Hex yet. I trust there will be once everything's said and done, but again, we're in the alpha stage of the game. So I am borrowing Threshold's Twitch feed, as you can catch at www.twitch.tv/thresholdmat. Again, I'll have a link to that when I post this on YouTube later on. I'll have a link to that as well as Threshold's Twitch handle, as well as Alaeryn's Twitch handle, my information, as well as where you can find other Shardcasts. So stay tuned for that. I would encourage you to please follow me on Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Shardcast channel there. Get all the up-to-date info. So Threshold draws a Mimic for turn, draws one of his Sapphire Shards, and swings a 1/1 Ancestor Chosen. Because he can't use it to block anyway, you might as well try to get the 1 damage in while you can. Mimic's an interesting card. Actually, we'll get that in a second, as Threshold plays an Eldritch Dreamer on his second main phase. It's a 3/3 troop that has a gem socket in it. Gem sockets are unique to Hex in the fact that certain cards have sockets in it, which allows you to put a gem of certain colors in it. That gem requires you to have a certain threshold met if you meet that threshold, which is where Threshold Mat gets his name. That threshold is met, it actually gets a different ability added to the card. This one in particular says if you have 2 Sapphire Threshold, which he's met because he has 4, when it does damage to opposing champions, you get to draw a card. What makes Eldritch Dreamer good for that is it's an unblockable troop. However, Alaeryn plays another Buccaneer. We are no doubtly going to see that target the Eldritch Dreamer. Putting it back to the Threshold's hand, it will cost 5 to play a second time. So we'll wait for the ability to resolve here. Take a moment there. You probably will see some tails wagging behind me. I do have 2 puppies that hang out with me while I do my Shardcasts. You may hear the youngest one is 7-month-old Isabel. She's a German Shepherd boxer mix. She tends to bark every once in a while. She's a guard dog, so any noise kind of alerts her. That does bounce the Eldritch Dreamer off the table. So Alaeryn will swing with his previous Buccaneer and deal 2 damage to Threshold. Alaeryn's 18, Threshold's at 16. Passes turn to a Threshold. Threshold draws another Sapphire Shard. So he's got 3 in hand. He'll drop one of them on the battlefield. Lighting up his champion power, he draws Ancestor's Chosen. So the question is going to be... Oh, he's going ahead and spin all 5 resources and put his Dreamer back on the board. So Threshold's got 2 Sapphire Shards, a Mimic, a Buccaneer, and an Ancestor's Chosen. That Mimic is a 4-cost basic action, and you can create a copy of any card in play. Or I think it's actually worded, create a copy of target card in play. Meaning it can't be any card that has special can't be targeted. Let me look that up for you real quick. That's going to say, create a copy of target troop and put it in play. Target troop. So 3/3 Dreamer and a 1/1 Chosen on the board, passes turn. Oh, but at the end phase, Alaeryn's going to time ripple his Dreamer. So the Dreamer will go back to the Threshold's hand. So basically nullifies his entire turn. Because he spent all of his resources getting the Dreamer on the board and ended up back in his hand before the turn was even done. So Alaeryn's trying to step on the gas a little bit. As he draws card for turn, going up to 5 cards. His champion power is still lit, which lends me to believe that he has an incantation of Ascendance in hand. Or trying to draw to it. That way he can go ahead and throw a bunch of counters on it at once. There's the incantation. So he'll probably use his champion power now. He does. So there'll be 1 counter on the incantation. Let's see if he has an Oracle Song too. If he does, he can't play it because he already played the incantation. Oracle Song costs 3, only has 1 resource available, as you can tell in the top left-hand corner, which is 1 out of 5. Moving to the attack phase, he's going to swing both Buccaneers. He could block with a Chosen if he wants to, but he's going to choose to let those go through. No resources to do anything about them. So Threshold will go down to 12 health. Alaeryn's still at 18. And Alaeryn will pass turn. Start Threshold's 6th turn. We'll see what he draws for turn. It'd be interesting. He could always mimic the Buccaneer and bounce one of the Buccaneers. So he draws another Sapphire Shard. He's up to 6 resources. He's going to play the Chosen. I don't know if I Buccaneer one of his Buccaneers, because he's just going to come back to bite him. Because it'll be a 4-cost Buccaneer. He knows Alaeryn's already got 5 resources available when he plays next turn. So this is tough. He can't play the Dreamer again. He can mimic his Chosen, and that will just at least give him a chump block, but that's a 4-cost blocker. Yeah, he's going to mimic one of his Chosen. I mean, it's unfortunate he has to do that, but it really has no other play here. He can't afford to keep taking 4 damage each turn, because then he's on a 3-turn clock. So I agree with that move entirely. He's going to have to start chump blocking here, just to be able to prolong the game. As we see, Matt's leaned forward just a little bit, so you can catch him in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen here, because I am borrowing his feed. So those of you listening to the Threshold podcast, if you don't know what Threshold Matt looks like, there he is. As I said at the beginning of the cast, if you were tuning in, I just asked that you sort of keep most of all of your pertinent stuff off the viewing table so I can crop it out. I try to crop as much of Matt out as possible. If he leans back in his chair, you can't see him, but he's leaning forward right now. So, nevertheless, Alaeryn draws a card, drops a Sapphire Shard, and an Eldritch Dreamer of his own. So he will swing both Buccaneers. We have to assume that Threshold is going to block at least one of them. But the thing with the Dreamer is that is an unblockable troop. We know Threshold will probably bounce it next turn when he plays his Buccaneer. So Threshold's going to take the 4 and go down to 8. Alaeryn's still at 18. Threshold needs some help and in a hurry, so he's got to do something special about the incantation on the board. Otherwise, he's going to be facing a flyer. Pretty strong flyer at that. It would be a 10-10 right now. So let's see what Threshold can do. You know he'll have 7 resources here. Menacing Grog will slow Alaeryn down a little bit. He almost has to unless he starts chump blocking. Because the Dreamer's going to go through. So he's on a 3-turn clock. You have to start chump blocking the Buccaneer. So yeah, he almost has to play the Grog, and he does. That will buy him some time because Alaeryn, reminding what the Menacing Grog does, is a 2/2 flight troop for 5. And when it comes into play, it exhausts all opposing troops, as you see the Dreamer turn sideways. And they don't ready during that player's next ready step. So Alaeryn won't be able to attack with those 3 next turn. It buys Threshold a little bit of time, but his turns are numbered. We'll see if he can bounce back from that. I've seen worse, and we also saw last game the Threshold had 2 health there, and he came back to win. So Threshold can afford to attack with all 3. Because he's got no one to block him now, so that will bring Alaeryn down to 15. The issue he runs into is if Alaeryn has Oracle Song, he will get to 5 counters next turn. Because he'll draw a card per turn, giving it 3 counters. Oracle Song will give it 5. And then he's pretty much dead. So Oracle Song would, well, I take that back. Threshold can block with his Menacing Grog. So it would delay it by 1 turn. So Alaeryn drops a Sapphire Shard, has 4 cards in hand. Here comes another Eldritch Dreamer. Eldritch Dreamer has a... I'm sorry. Threshold has a Buccaneer in hand, so he can bounce one of those Dreamers. But he's really just delaying the inevitable here if he can't get some of that stuff off the board and start getting some serious damage through. So we'll see. Alaeryn leaves 3 resources available and has 3 cards in hand, which smells of counter magic. which would all but pretty much end the game. It'd be pretty darn close. Like I said, Threshold will be able to block the Armada with the Grolk. As he dropped Mastery of Time is an interesting card. He would like Mastery of Time if he could do it with a... Ooh. He could bounce the Grolk, play Mastery Time, the following turn play Grolk again, and buy himself some more time. It's narrow, but it may be the only play he's got. Because the Grolk would be 6 cost. So if he bounces the Grolk in his hand, that will leave him 5 resources left. Plays the Mastery of Time, gives him a second turn. Then he can play the Grolk on his second turn and exhaust all of Alaeryn's troops again. Assuming Alaeryn doesn't have counter magic. Alaeryn has counter magic that all but nullifies this plan. Now here's the thing, Alaeryn has to yeah, Alaeryn would have to counter there. He wants to accept the ability. Surely he's gonna bounce the Grolk. The ability goes up on the stack. Arcane Shield. Was he targeting the Dreamer? He was. Wow, I think I would have bounced the Grolk there. Because he bounced the Grolk, he still had 5 resources remaining. Play Mastery of Time. Now, granted, he only gets 2 damage through. Goes down to 13. Next turn, he can play the Grolk again, exhaust all of Alaeryn's troops, and buy another turn without getting attacked. Now, here's the thing, too. If he draws a Time Ripple, the same effect will work. Actually, Time Ripple does +2. He doesn't have 9 resources available, so... We'll see if Threshold can pull this one out. He's going to have a second turn here as he uses Mastery of Time. It's a 5 drop that allows you to play a second additional turn after the end of your turn. So we'll see what he draws here. He's facing 6 damage next turn. And he has to block both of the Buccaneers. Ancestral Spectral will allow him to draw a card. Ooh. He can mimic the Grolk. What a draw! That's going to work. Oh, wow. That couldn't have been a better draw. He's going to mimic the Grolk, which will work the same way that I was just talking about. Threshold may actually win this. Now I've got to do my math. He's going to be able to attack for 6 this turn. They won't ready next turn. Now, granted, he'll have an Armada next turn. Alaeryn, no, actually, he has only 3 counters on there. So, nevertheless, Threshold's going to attack for 6 here. He may have just swung this game back. With the Miracle top deck of Mimic. Actually, the Miracle top deck of Ancestral Spectre first to be able to draw additional card and get the Mimic. He's going to swing for 6, taking Alaeryn down to 5. Alaeryn only has 1 resource, so he has nothing, so he can't do anything about it. Now, Alaeryn does have 2 cards in hand. We don't know what cards those are. So we'll see if he can do anything about wiping some of these flyers off. Now, here's the thing, too. If he can get those 2 flyers off the board and get his incantation out, he wins. So, Alaeryn's turn, he draws a card for turn. He'll go to 3 cards in hand. His 4 troops will not ready. So first main phase here. Nope. Alaeryn says GG, and that will do it. So Threshold with the top deck of Spectre the Mimic will actually win this one. What a turn of events. I don't think if he didn't get that other Grok off, I think he was done. Because let's just say he got the Spectre and didn't get the Grok. That would leave him one blocker up. He wouldn't be able to swing for all that. He'd have to keep stuff back. Yeah, he had to keep stuff back to blocks so he wouldn't be able to put that much damage in. So it'd have been close still. So well played by a Threshold there, drawing the Spectre into the Mimic. As we see Alaeryn pass turn, no blockers. Threshold has to do is switch over to his attack phase and finish him off. So I'm glad they were exciting games for my first real live Shardcast. Glad they were exciting games. So Threshold will pass to his attack phase, swing the house here. So Threshold will swing for 8. Just in case Alaeryn has a couple time bubbles in hand. Alaeryn's a pretty good sport. I don't think he would have given the good old GG if he wasn't beat. So we see the defense phase there, followed by the party phase, and that will do it. As we see the damage assigned, and Threshold will take game 2. He defeats Alaeryn 2 games to 0. So very close games. It looks like Threshold had himself beat both times, was able to come back. So very, very good work. Again, that was a HexTCGPro Challenge Series matchup, 6th round between Alaeryn and Threshold. Threshold again being Outlandish Matt from Threshold Podcast. So again, I will have this up on my YouTube page here shortly, and I will have links below that will give links to both players' Twitter handles as well as their Twitch pages and a link to Threshold Podcast. So again, thanks for Alaeryn and Threshold for allowing me to do this live. Thanks to Threshold for allowing me to borrow his stream for this live Shardcast. Again, follow me on Twitter and subscribe to my YouTube channel. As you can see to the right there, youtube.com, that's /user/HexShardcast. I'll get that changed shortly. That way, by subscribing to that, you'll know exactly when you have a new Shardcast come available. So, until next time, my name is Fritzylvania. This is Shardcast, and so long.